This is the state of the nation. Ibifa Mugwanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The state of the nation with Henry Ssali. All right. Welcome to the State of the Nation. My name is Henry Ssali, and today we are discussing whether the opposition is ready to govern. Before we start, we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto African Alumni Association operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many indigenous people from across the Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to serve on this land. Again, welcome to the State of the Nation. My name is Henry Ssali. I want to send a shout out to our proud sponsors, Manulife and TD Insurance, and of course others, Paramount Education, University of Toronto. Always a pleasure to be here, always a pleasure to engage in these discussions. Today I have panelists from the opposition who are going to try to convince us that they are ready to govern. I know they talk a lot about liberation. Many of them have been talking about liberation, Uganda's liberation, tugenda mu nsensuubize, tugenda kwenunula. Naye we banatuuka mu bukulembeze bali ready. Are they ready to govern? What are some of the strategies they have? What is their vision for the people of Uganda? Who are they, and why do they think they are the ones who are going to govern Uganda better than the ones who are doing it right now? We do have Allan Kitonsa in the studio. Of course, General Moses Bigirwa will be joining us shortly. And we might have a guest, Mr. Mugeni, James, will likely join us to engage in this conversation. Mr. Allan, pleasure meeting you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Kiki ekitambula, where are you hiding yourself? You don't have to say that. Opposition egamba ki?
What time is it in Uganda right now? Is it 9? Yeah.
It's about 9, yeah.
Good evening, Foxes in Uganda. It has been, I think the last time I was on camera talking about politics that relate to Ugandan's situation, I think it was 7 years ago. So it's
7 years ago. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it has been a lot. It has been quite a long time. Yeah. So I'm really delighted. Really happy that you hosted me today.
Yeah, welcome to the State of the Nation. This is, of course, the State of the Nation. We are delighted to host people to discuss about contemporary issues pertaining to Uganda. Of course, we are going to talk about the social life. We are going to talk about the politics, the economics. Generally, we are going to talk about what is going on in Uganda, what's going on within the opposition fraternity, and what should people think about what you guys are going to do. Before you start, tell us what your name is and what excites you as a person.
May you please allow me also to use my mother language.
Yeah, I
just wanted to make sure that like all our constituencies is covered.
Yeah.
You know, so it has been quite, living in exile, and where we are, it's it's you get excited when you meet someone who speaks the language that you grew up speaking, your mother.
Right.
So it's the reason why I've requested to as well to say hello in Luganda. Mbalamusiza mwenna na Uganda. Nze amanya gange nze Allan Kitonsa Sava. Nera nga ndi musanyufu okunkyazaako wano ne mukulu Henry Ssali. Guno omukisa nasembayo okuba nago myaka 7 egiyise. Nera nateera nze nzuuno ku kamera. Bamusiza nera.
All right, thank you so much. Tweyanzege bano baliwa General Bigirwa yangambye agenda kubeera wano simulaba. I hope he's working on joining us shortly. Of course, James Mugeni will be joining us as well. I left him on space. He was on space discussing the issue of homosexuality. Simanyi we batuuse naye kansubire nabo bagenda maaso bigenda maaso babiraba era babiwuliriza bulungi.
It's quite a sensitive topic. It's quite very sensitive.
Yeah, it is a sensitive topic.
It is something that you just don't wake up from the blue and start mumbling about it. You can find yourself in hot waters. Depending on where you are.
Exactly.
The community you live in. So it's very sensitive.
Yeah. Of course. Tusubire nti bajja kuvayo ne gundi whatever they come up with. But let us go to opposition in Uganda. What are your thoughts about the opposition in Uganda? How do you see the opposition? Are you part of the opposition? What are your plans? Kiki kye mugenda okuggwanga okuleetera eggwanga?
Ekibuuzo kirungi nnyo. That's a very.
Does Uganda have an opposition? Uganda in opposition.
That's another good question. Does Uganda have an opposition? I think Uganda really does have opposition, but what lacks is the leadership. The leadership to drive the masses to victory. That is what is lacking. The people are ready for change, but then that person, that group of leadership, that group of team that really is going to commit itself, it's going to be selfless to drive the masses, to organize the masses, first of all, because the masses have been indoctrined with a lot of fake stories. You see, the NRA being in power 37 years, he has twisted all the history of Ugandan history. It is day and night they're working to erase away the history of Uganda. That means people will lose identity, and that identity they will find themselves in confusion. When they're in confusion, trust me, that's mayhem. That's chaos. Now, in such a society, if it has no credible, selfless, committed leadership, trust me, there's nothing good can come out of it. Neera kyekizibu ekisookera ddala mu opposition nti abantu weebali abaagala abantu buweebali bannayuganda baagala enkyukakyuka naye obuzibu buli ku bukulembeze obutegeeza kiki obutegeeza ekigambo kyabwe oweewaddeyo okulaba nti enkyukakyuka ejja mu Uganda, obumanyi ekyokukola. Now, ebyo byonna right now bikyalaakinga kyova olaba 37 years down the road twebuuza right now nti ddala Uganda in opposition, naddala bw'aba Uganda in opposition, what is hindering the progress? What is hindering the process of us reaching the victory?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so there's another question then that comes in. Opposition, and how we navigate the question of victory. How do we define victory? What does it mean for Uganda to have a victory?
Okay.
There is also tomorrow, Tahere Sita agenda ku celebrating a 42nd anniversary. Tahere Sita is the celebration of the UPDF, right? They call the UPDF the People's Force. And when they were talking about this last week, that's the Deputy Speaker of Parliament intimated that there have been several transitions of power, even though there has not been a change of the president of the country. They still insist that there have been some sort of transitions since 1986. Of course, during all these so-called transitions, the UPDF has been fundamental. It has been key in maintaining the current status quo. Do we regard the UPDF as the People's Army? And if so, have they done a good job to ensure that the people they are here to defend, as they are going to celebrate their 42nd anniversary, should they be proud nti bakuumye eggwanga bulungi, nti bakuumye bannayuganda bulungi, era babeere basanyufu nti we are the People's Army, the Ugandan People's Army, we are the Ugandan People's Forces, and we are not partisan. Tetulina gwe tukolera mulala okuggyako bannayuganda. Or should people continue insinuating that it's a one man's army and it's not really the People's Army? Like, what are your thoughts about the celebration that is coming up tomorrow?
Now, you asked me two questions, and I'll start with that of UPDF. What is called the Uganda People Defence Forces? In words, one could think that it is an institution owned by the people of Uganda, but that's a lie. It's the reality on the ground. UPDF is an institution that is owned by Museveni's family, not the people of Uganda. In other words, the UPDF itself has no allegiance to the people of Uganda. Rather, it is to its allegiance is to Museveni as opposed to what it should have been, which is the people of Uganda. Now, in such a situation, the people of Uganda, the masses, there's no reason as to why they should even celebrate. And it's even evident. You would have felt indeed that if people, because the body language itself speaks for itself. The body language speaks for itself. Singa abantu ba Uganda babadde ddala nga barecognizinga nti UPDF magye ga ggwanga waalirabye okwenyumiriza mu mwaga amagye, ekyo tekiriiwo. The people themselves are not proud of that establishment. They're not proud of that institution as UPDF because it enforces the interest of Museveni's family and his sycophants other than the people of Uganda. Now, I can give you an example. So many times we have seen UPDF going out of the country, and yet, according to the constitution that I myself, I don't give respect to, I don't believe that 1995 constitution, I think it's a one-man constitution. It's not for the people of Uganda. And I'll tell you why later on. Now, this we have seen several times UPDF going out of the country without the endorsement or getting a green light from the Parliament of Uganda, which it's by law is supposed to endorse it. By law, if you read the 1995 constitution, it is the Parliament of Uganda that must give a green light for UPDF to go out of the country and intervene whatever it has gone out of to intervene, whatever assignment it has been assigned to. But rather, it is Museveni who just wakes up in the morning. He says, you just see tomorrow UPDF in Somalia, UPDF in South Sudan, UPDF in Congo. And what has it going to do there? It is going to cause violence. It is going to commit genocide. It has gone. UPDF actually. Let me tell you in my experience. I've ever been a refugee. And I met people from Congo and Rwanda, Burundi. I'm telling you, people that have been wounded by the UPDF or South Sudan as well, and as well as South Sudan and Somalia. Let me tell you something. My experience with them, they were not happy with Ugandans. I'm telling you, refugees in Africa who have had wounds as a result of UPDF's participation in their country,
they're
very bitter with our country. The reception I had when I landed, I met these groups, was very, very not. They were not happy to receive me. They were not happy for my presence. They didn't appreciate my presence. Why? Because of that Ugandan identity. That UPDF joins other militia group to cause mayhem, to cause violence, to root Congo. And you see, just saw recently ICC coming out to declare, to pronounce itself on how much
that going on in the DRC. How about, because there some people are suggesting that, especially some people within the establishment, they're suggesting that it's very important for regional peace. So UPDF apparently is a fundamental pillar in maintaining regional peace, not just for the sake of the Africans within that region, but also for the colonizers, the Western powers that send them to Somalia, for example, all other regions where they send them to supposedly keep peace. How about that idea of keeping peace? Does it hold water for Africans?
I think there's no country in the Western from the West that has ever forced UPDF to go and intervene in Somalia, or because Somalia is close. Somalia is from Abyssinia. There's still Ethiopia here. Ethiopia has been very stable. Why, you would think Ethiopia would have played a very key role in terms of restoring peace in Somalia. You would think Sudan before this transition that is in Sudan, you would think Sudan would have played a very role because it has a better advantage. They speak Arabic. In other words, people there will be very receptive, because it will be simple for soldiers from Sudan and Ethiopia to intervene, because they understand better the politics of Somalia other than Uganda, which is a little bit far from these two countries. They share borders, so they understand the politics of the day there. But why is it Uganda? Because Uganda has Museveni uses the children of this country, the children of Uganda, as machines that he doesn't care whether you die for a cause that's not even just. He doesn't give a damn as long as he gets money out of the day. Now, ngangina maaso Henry okutangaza bannayuganda kyembadde mbanyonyola nti UPDF si gye lya ggwanga Uganda nedda. UPDF gye ya Museveni, neera bw'olaba ebigambo byazenga ayogera consistently tekyetaaga muntu kuva eri ku mwezi akunnyonnyola nti UPDF akugambye nti mu kikontestingi nako nedda. UPDF lwaki nti magye ga Museveni, nti UPDF ogende Somalia erina kubanga eyitira mu parliament naye tekikola. UPDF ogende Congo bweki nga bwe nanyonyodde mu luzungu wali. Now kiki twetaaga okukola nti eyo Tahere Sita si lunaku lwa bannayuganda kwenyumiriza mu magye gaabwe nedda. Eyo Tahere Sita kwenyumiriza ku occupation ya NRA emyaka 37 yemaze mu buyinza, kwenyumiriza. Labayo tulina president mu Uganda akwata obukadde 6 n'agenda n'azimba essomero e Rwanda Ntale. Obwo naye nga olukaga taluinvestinze mu Uganda. Tulina president akwata almost $2 million n'agenda n'azimba essomero e Tanzania. Naye ng'ekyo talina ssomero lyazimbye nga gavumenti ye eriri ku standard nga bwe tulaba Ntale e Rwanda, nga bwe tulaba eyo Museveni Secondary School ne primary e Tanzania. Now mbuulira gwe wookera ku makya wenyumirize mu bukulembeze bw'otyo bwe butyo ng'omukulembeze akulaga nti mwe bannayuganda baakulembera temuli priority wabula mwe muli tools zaayitirako okwachivinga ebibye. Now tekitegeeza nti mwe bannayuganda temuyina nsi. In fact bannayuganda olw'okuba nti bava ewaabwe bava mu nyumba ne bagenda ne babaatisa wali mu Owino, ne bava mu Owino nadda wali e Makindi oba nadda e Kawempe oba nadda e Nalukolongo n'alowooza nti ali free, naye yeerabidde nti Kampala yekka yeetolodda military barracks mmeka. Okitegedde? So bannayuganda bali muwambe naye tebannaba kiraba because perhaps tebanamukuba masasi yalowooza ali safe, naye nga already tuli surrounded ne army n'amagye amagye atali nti gatukiza interest za Uganda wabula agawamba nti bawamba bajjako gavumenti yaliko ne bawambiramu n'abantu. Naye kati abantu bano olw'okuba nti batambula kati omanyi omugundi omuddu bw'abanga omutadde ku lujegero oluwanvu yalowooza si muddu because alaba agenda mu faamu ya master we ya mukama we nadda mu kasiisira ke, kati yalowooza si buddu. Naye alinde master we waali yagala okumuteekako olujegere oba okumutransferinga agende Somalia wajjuka kasa nti muddu because tajja kuba nase ku decision making nti saagala agenda Somalia ajja mugamba we wacha wewe. So yembeera bannayuganda gye beesangamu olwaleero. Tulina mukulembeze akwata ssente za Uganda n'agenda e Congo nti azimbayo enguudo, naye ezo ssente nga teziri approved n'ebitongole ebikwataganyizibwako okwaprovinga ssente which is parliament. Tulina omukulembeze akwata communities n'aziplantinga mu gundi mu ssemateeka wa Uganda nga talina gwe yeebuuzizaako. Muyina omukulembeze mwe basali e Uganda, muyina omukulembeze nga yaliwo ku bukulembeze mu 1999 twawulira ku muntu, nali nkyali mu primary, twawulira ku muntu gwe eyayitibwa Kibwetere. Ojjukira Kibwetere Saga? Kibwetere yatta abantu. Kibwetere oyo talabikangako, tebamuzuulanga. Okitegedde? Kyokka Kibwetere tannaba kuzuulibwa ate ne tuwulira nga waliwo abatandiseewo ebibinja bibiri, ekirala bavandime, ekirala waliwo simanyi gayali eyo Bunyoro ayambala white. Okitegedde? Kati okkiriza otya abantu akeere ku makya agambe nti ntaddewo eddiini yange, nti ntaddewo kabira yange, n'atandika okumubilize? That thing is dangerous. Nga tetwalaba ku Kibwetere abantu abaafa.
Yeah, but Bavandimo are part of they're just transitioning from Rwandese. They're Ugandan Rwandese apparently.
No, nkulaga obubi obuli mu ebyo bintu. Nkulaga nti there was one time mu Kibwetere baamulaba ng'ateekawo enzikiriza ye, buli omu Bannayuganda n'aba nga ali busy. Everyone, we careless, tebitukwatako kasikanze embanja. You get it? Right. But what was the end result?
People died.
People died. There was a massacre, and there was no accountability up to today. The culprit has never been caught.
Brought to book. Yeah.
Brought to book.
Is he alive? Is that guy alive?
It's the same question I'm asking myself. Who was he? How come the government, which has capacity to influence regime change in South Sudan, in Somalia, in Congo, in Rwanda, has no capacity to lay its hands on Chibwetere. So it means that Chibwetere is more powerful than the country, than Museveni, who was UPDF, which has influenced change of leadership in the neighboring countries. So if abalengere wala, once you see ng'ebintu ate bizzemu, kati ŋŋambye nti abavandimwe simanyi transition. There's nothing like that. Tewali community transiting anti rebranding, rebranding is what kind of community are you branding about? You stay as you are because Katonda bwe yakutonda. There's no, by the way, there's no harm. There's no, why should you be shy okugamba nti this is who I am? Katonda watu yakutonda. But the moment wotandika okuba ng'olaga nti ate rebrandinga, ate waliwo akabinja akasigala, ate go rebrandinga, it reminds us for abalengere wala ku Chibwetere. Then there's another guy, oyinza okuba tunaakumuwa attention. He comes from Bunyoro. I think it's my Apostle Ani. They're putting on yellow. Actually, they're putting on. I just witnessed. I just saw what part of some of the clips. Whenever the one in our clips, cool. Kakumiro. He did mobilization of his followers, and they participated in Museveni's. I don't know what kind of function was happening in Kakumiro district. Now, this is another phase. We don't know who he is. Ataddewo ekidiini amobilizing abantu nti bambala yellow na white okitegedde neera tubi ignoring tebitukwatako so abantu mu Uganda bali mu kufa. People have always been mentioning this word. There's a silent genocide going on in Uganda, but none of us is caring because we only wake up to start paying attention to these things when it has affected past your house. But before you see a dead body in your house, you're like, I don't care. So that mentality of I don't care, Ugandans must find solution to that. First of all, that mentality, I don't care, it needs to change. People must now pay attention to every affairs that is happening in their country if they want to keep their country.
Right. People must pay attention to all these things. Are they paying attention? Like, okay, so if people have to pay attention to all these things, let us hypothesize that you guys have taken power. There has been a peaceful transition of power. You are now in government. What are some of the visions you have? What do you have visions? You have a vision? Do you have what do you plan for Uganda? Like you have mentioned all these ills that are happening right now during the current regime. How are you going to change that when you become leaders? When you become the ones in power, holding power? How are you going to transform the UPDF into the truly people's army? How are you going to ensure that you minimize all these cropping up groups of anti stuff and all those things that are happening that are seemingly not in the best interest of Ugandans?
Thank you, Henry. But this is how I'm going to respond to that question. I think it would be very naive for one to think of discussing how to consolidate power before organizing yourself before organizing people to get that power. So it would be very naive. Now, this is allow me to go further. Uganda right now, state we are a center of militias. A country which is a center of militia, kizibu nnyo essaawa zino okwogera ku nti bwe tugenda okukonsolidatinga obuyinza ne visioni zaffe nga tetunnaba ffe nnyini kutegeka engeri gye twejjako omulabe n'okubanga ate tugenda okufuna obuyinza because tetunnaba kutuuka ku level. Yes,
so people are saying so that's one of the biggest challenges that is happening right now. People are saying that you want power, or the people in the opposition want power. They want to govern, right? They want power, but they're not ready to govern because they have no vision for their country. They just want to take out someone, but they are not telling Ugandans what they are going to do for them.
And how are they going to get power? How are you going to get power without military backup? You cannot. It's very impossible in Uganda. I'm telling you, stop dreaming. It is impossible.
No, but the thing is, so now we are talking about an hypothetical transition of power, right? Assuming that tomorrow you actually there's a peaceful transition of power. Kale katugambe encha Museveni afudde abantu bonna bali mwela ne bagamba, you know what, NRM efuze nnyo tuwe mu opposition evuge mu kino ekintu. How are you going to govern?
Henry,
what are your strategies? What is your vision for Uganda?
Are you ready to govern? Henry, bani abagenda okugamba kubanga abo abantu bolaba abalina okugamba, the masses abalina okugamba tebalina maanyi ago. They are slaves. So eyo level, stop dreaming Henry, eyo level tunabagituukako. Eyo level yogamba nti tusobola okudetamininga ani agenda okuddako kuba president. Right now the opposition of Uganda as it is today, tell you tetunaba kutuuka ku level. So the reality.
Let us listen to Mr. Mugeni. Mr. Mugeni, welcome to the State of the Nation. You have come in a little bit late. I know you are in another discussion on Twitter Space. I hope that went well. Welcome to the State of the Nation. You know what we are talking about. We are talking about the opposition's readiness to govern and whether you do have a vision for Ugandans. Who are you and why are you interested in this conversation?
Mwami Henry, good afternoon, and Allan, good afternoon. Yes, Mwami Henry, I'm James Mugeni. I'm a Ugandan. I'm a medical clinic officer by profession. I'm a certified public manager, and I am an active Ugandan, very active. I think the question you've asked, Mukulu, is a very interesting question, but the question should be asked to all Ugandans. But that said, you know, Museveni destroyed the institutions. I have mentioned I'm a medical clinic officer. Mwami Henry Wasoma, Allan Yasoma. I belong to the medical profession. And I'm saying, what should be said that we want to restore institutions. If you are restoring institutions, then medical professions, we shall be functional. I don't expect perhaps somebody who is lay to come and run my profession. I want my profession to be let to run. Now, one of the things that Museveni has managed to do is to defranchise Uganda from everything, because now we imagine the politician has the answer. They are just part of a multidisciplinary approach to public administration. Public administration is multidisciplinary. You have doctors fearing, you have lawyers somewhere fearing, and you have, name it all. So all you need is an environment where this thing will institutions will thrive. It's not about how is opposition ready. No. People will come. It's like we want to elect somebody to work with him. I want somebody in power whom I can work with. For example, I have seen what a hospital looks like here. In Uganda, I was working under a tree. So, yes, I have that now in me. That a hospital looks like this. Surely I've been working under trees in Uganda. So it is about who is going to allow us to work, to restore, to restore functionality of our every institution. The medics are ready to do their thing, and we are ready to work with somebody there. The leader will be ceremonial. Medicine will function. Law will function. Teachers will function. Henry,
But surely,
that's what I'm answering.
Yeah,
yes.
Surely the leader, someone who has power cannot be ceremonial in this world, today's world. Because if they're ceremonial, then it means that they cannot influence stuff. Similar to what is happening in Kampala right now. When you look at a ceremonial Lord Mayor and see the chaos, the seeming chaos that is happening, especially
Henry,
in regard to implementing.
Maybe the word could be wrong, but what is wrong with a president coming to see perhaps how Heart Institute is working? I don't expect a president to know what a doctor does in Heart Institute. That's right. what I call a ceremonial function. It's more of, okay, he oversees that, yes, that hospital is working. What do they do there? He knows what we do there. That's what I meant. I didn't mean that. And if you look at budgeting, what is budgeting?
The president is supposed to be the CEO. The president is supposed to be the CEO of a country, right?
Exactly. Yes.
He oversees all the ministries, but he does not govern those ministries. The ministries have their own managers that oversee the functions of those ministries as they operate. Right? They are the chief operating officers for their respective ministries. What you want to talk about is giving power to those ministers to be able to function as real ministers, as opposed to functioning as people who are just there, who are not able to do anything because they do not have the power. They have the offices, but they have to answer to the one man. So essentially, what you want is a president that has less power that the one has, the current president has right now, because even the prime minister has to consult from the president. Even the minister of education has to consult from the president. Even the minister of transportation has to consult from the president. So what are you going to do differently as the opposition that you haven't been able to do right now while you're still in opposition governance? How are you going to be able to change what is happening in government right now when you become the eventual holders of power? Mr. Kitonsa.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I think I need to retaliate this message. I need to echo this message so that every Ugandan can hear. And I need their attention. I hope they have given me their attention. Lend me their ears. Uganda is a broken country. Uganda, as it is today, it's a broken country. It's a country of a one-man show. It's a country that has you would think it's a political monarchy, but it's absolute. Like, they have powers that are not questionable. They don't even give room for the returnants, for aides to even participate or contribute for purpose of improvement. They don't. Even those returnants, those aides like the Eliashu Kwago, the whatever ministers, the Speaker of Parliament, those are all aides, but they are not even given space to contribute to the transformation or to the betterness of their country. Now, in such a state, is where we are today, it is very hard for us to think that perhaps we'll get any positive results at the end of the day. It is impossible. Reason why? Because Museveni has his personal interests. He has his agenda. He has his own ideology that he's kept to himself, and a few of his loyal men, perhaps ethnic or nationality, uh, uh, like they agreed. There's one day, I remember it was, I think I was in Form 1. There was a document that we landed on. I was with my friends in Machindi, and it was about a meeting that sat, I think in 1995 or 1992, somewhere in Mbarara, I think in Mbarara at some gentleman's house, and there was this families who were identified, and they sat and planned how they're going to execute this mission. Now, and this is how it is today. This is how it is implemented. So for us, we think, Ugandans, we even debate about it, that we have a leadership. We think that those Sijui speakers of parliament mention the ministers that are appointed, or the electorate, these people who are occupying political office. We expect much more from them, yet they're just, I'm sorry to use this word, but they're zombies. I'm telling you, they're zombies. These are wannabes. Let me tell you, the political sphere of Uganda is occupied by wannabes who are only looking for handouts.
Okay, so that's why we are here today. We are not here to. We are here to examine how we can govern better. Because if we are able to paint a picture of how we can govern better, maybe the people in government
now the thing is, before we govern,
some of the ideas that you're talking about, because you are painting a picture of a broken country in Uganda. But when we look at the statistics at the level, when we read the reports produced by the World Bank or IMF, when we talk about the Human Capital Index, when we start examining Uganda in terms of the economic indicators of a functional, dysfunctional country, Uganda is not, it might be one of the poorest countries in the world right now, but it hasn't been identified as a broken country as per the World Bank or the IMF.
Those are paid PR, Henry. Those are paid PR. The government, your system, sorry, it's not even a government, the NRA system is investing so much in PR to portray itself as it is, in certain sense of transforming the country. But what is on reality is it's the opposite. Just you heard Mr. James expressing his feeling, his concerns, that he's a professional medical doctor, but he was operating under the tree. So you're telling me 37 years. Why is Mr. James, a professional doctor, running away from his country and taking his expertise and knowledge somewhere else, his education, his knowledge somewhere else? The reason is simple. Why are the Jameses we're operating under a tree? Is every single penny that you Ugandans contribute for the transformation of your country is taken out of the country. So that's why I told you that. Why is it? It is evidence, and I'll show you how it's taken out. Museveni's daughters have always been giving birth out of the country. That means the leader himself has no faith, has no confidence in these institutions. So you expect wananchi, you expect masses to have faith and confidence in institutions.
No, that's not what I expect. What I expect is for us to offer solutions, alternative solutions for how government should function. For example, how can we improve the numbers for the learning poverty in Uganda? Okay. How can we improve the numbers for the gross secondary enrollment in Uganda? How can we, let us look at all these indicators.
I get your point. This is the way forward. Uganda, under NRM establishment, which has been in power over 37 years, it's part of its agenda. It is to enslave Ugandans. Now, how Ugandans, if they want to get off these chains, this is what they're going to do. First, we need to identify ourselves with people who are facing the same brutal and oppressive NRA methods, which is people focuses like Congo. We make alliances with Congo. We make alliances with South Sudan. We make alliance with Kenyans. We make alliance with Tanzania to get the power, to get the power to come and make things change in Uganda. For us now to start discussing on those beautiful programs that you have, those beautiful programs that you have in your mind, Henry. But before that, we were going to come here, talk and talk and talk as days go by. We get old when we're just here, me and you will get old. Even our children, by the way, our children may not live longer in Uganda. They're soon going to be or refugees out of Uganda. I'm telling you, our children. Now, you asked me the way forward. This is it. We should stop lamenting and get to work. Now, this is how we're going to do. This is what we should do. The opposition of Uganda should right now be reaching out to Tshisekedi in Congo, should right now be reaching out to leadership in Burundi, should right now be reaching out to our allies in Kenya, so that we have the power to influence, to change the leadership in Uganda, so that we can now discuss about the way forward. But before that, as it stands today, let me tell you, we'll come here and talk about these beautiful programs. We'll talk about we'll talk about all. Mr. Mugeni will come and share his experiences. You come and share your experiences. Days will go by. We die. Our children.
But I disagree with that notion that we must first get power before we can plan for what we want to do for the country.
We have the plan. We have
the plan, and that's
Henry.
what we need to know.
Henry.
Tugendeko Mr. Mugeni katono mwami Kitonsa tujja kudireda. Tugendeko Mr. Mugeni katono. Mr. Mugeni, you are a healthy professional, obviously, as you always say. In Uganda, according to the Human Capital Index project of 2020, the World Bank Human Capital Index, Uganda's maternal mortality rate or ratio is 375 deaths per 100,000 lives. In other words, abakyala bisatu munsanvu mutano bebafa nga bazaala kuli mitwalo 10 egy'abakyala gye bagenda okuzaala. But this is lower, this is much lower than both the average ratio of the region, which is 445, and the average for its income group. So income group ezensi zonna zonna eziri mu the same bracket as Uganda is 502. Abakyala bitano mu babiri be bafa nga bazaala. Mu Uganda abakyala bisatu mu nsanvu mutano for every 100,000 such cases be bafa. Nga omuntu ali mu health sector, how can we, because obviously Uganda is doing bad, but what are your plans as future leaders of the country to continue reducing that number? Because that's a lot of women that die still. Unmute yourself.
I think, well, that's a good question, Henry. Maybe you want to compare it with other countries, because first and foremost, what are the best examples? Henry, Sweden is 0.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I said.
Wait.
Already compared it.
Sweden has 0.
Yeah.
The question is, what does Sweden do? Maybe the United States is about 2. What does the United States do? Henry, I'll take you back to the last question that you asked Allan.
Yeah, but the context.
Wait. You asked the question. Let me take you back. You said, what do we plan to do? Henry, we have a national planning authority of the plans that have been put for 30 to 40 years to 50 years.
2040. There's a 2040 vision. Are you going to go with the same vision?
No, I'm just trying to tell you that we have plans that may not come from opposition, plans that come from technocrats. The whole issue is, do we respect Do we respect our technocrats? Do we follow through? Do we budget and use the budget according to what is, for example, National Road Authority, what has it planned for roads? For example, the health, in the health sector, what plans, the plans are there, but like you said, the executive head is the problem. Right. The executive head is the problem. The budget is abused. We are only wasting a lot of money for now on what they call insecurity, or our unfounded insecurities that we don't know. Right now, in fact, if you saw, I've just made a tweet which I think which is not 30 minutes ago. I was like, Emmanuel Dombo, when did you stop having floods in Butareja, such that right now they're profiling ADF in Butareja? Look at that.
Yeah.
What all I know about Butareja is rice and floods. Right now, they're talking about ADF in Butareja, and I just made a tweet saying that first arrest Emmanuel Dombo, and Waruswaka. These are the rebel collaborators there, because that's all we know. Those are the people there. How do you tell us displaced people who are in floods all the time? These people who don't even have granaries or whatever for their rice. Now you're talking about ADF. We keep on creating these situations for leadership. The other day I was challenging somebody from Tororo that my district is the last in primary living examination, but we have a Minister of Defense from there. And I was asking myself, in 2010, Kaihura came to Tororo and was addressing us about our primary living examination results. And he came with an education officer from Busheni. And he told us, you people of Tororo, if at primary level you are failing, this is a recipe for crime. Now, to my surprise, when they come to offer a docket for the Minister of Defense, they give somebody from Tororo. They're not considering the academic performance. So the whole issue is we need first to restore government. And when I talk of government, I'm not talking about, for example, the opposition is part of government as of now. They're part of government because they endorsed, they signed. Right. We are talking about a government whereby even the opposition is, we have what we call bipartisan issues that all of us agree schools are not functional. We are having a government where people in the NRM think it is the opposition talk about poor school performance. So you have such a huge crisis whereby you expect perhaps people in leadership now to be able to see the problems other than think that's the opposition that should see it. The opposition is just riding along also.
Right.
As for now, it's taking
the conversation. Us. Yeah, that's the conversation I want us to engage in.
Yes.
The one that actually acknowledges that there is a vision. We don't have to come up with a unique vision for Uganda. The technocrats have sat down in their boardrooms or whatever, strategic rooms, and they have drawn a vision for what they think Uganda should look like in 2040, by 2040. That vision needs to be implemented. But the way we implement it is by working together, by ensuring that institutions actually work for the people. Right? So when you talk about institutions, you're talking about the UPDF as an institution, the parliament as an institution, ministries as separate institutions. So we're talking about larger issues like education. How do we make education function? Education and health are very important in ensuring that a country's human capital index improves to the extent that when a child is born, by the time they are 18 years old, because right now I think the human capital index for Uganda is about 38%, or 40%. All right, so that's much lower than the Western countries, of course, US, Luxembourg, Singapore, other Western countries, pretty much. So how do we improve that to to ensure that when we have an enriched and an empowered human capital, the country also thrives. Right? These are the conversations we should be engaging in. Right?
And Henry, what I want to tell you first and foremost, for example, you are very resourceful. How are we using you? Maybe Allan there is very resourceful. How are we using him? And also, in fact, with your last question, you remember, if you can remember, the Abuja Protocol, where all African countries signed to have 15% of their budget to health. Uganda has never respected it, and yet it's a signatory. We are talking about maybe sustainable development. Uganda will fly to New York next year in September to review or sign, and when they go back, they do the opposite. What I want you to tell you now, or to know, is that Uganda has everything that is needed to do this, but one thing that is lacking is in the governance. It's governance.
Mr. Kitonsa, how do we change governance? How do we improve governance in Uganda? What do we do?
You see, Henry wants to engage me into a step that is 2 steps away from where I am, and I'm saying I need to, because this is a sequence that I first need to overcome. I first need to overcome these 2 steps for me to be even in position to be able to respond to you in a very reasonable manner. Like, it is hard. Henry, you just had a professional doctor here, Mr. James William. He has told you that the challenge is not the lack of visions. No, the challenge is not that there are no programs that have been laid on paper. No.
Right.
But the top leadership. And that's where we should all focus. Because we have...
the reason why I asked that question is because I'm looking at the leaders in our opposition right now, and I'm wondering if they have the zeal to implement what we are talking about right now, right? Because even within their different fraternities, they are still having trouble managing themselves.
Henry,
so how are they going to manage a country when they have power now?
Now
they don't have power and they are still having trouble.
Definitely.
Mr. Bigirwa is supposed to be here, but he's on suspension in his own party under certain circumstances or circumstances that are not well articulated. So
this takes us to the agenda of this discussion, which is Uganda's opposition grapples with the last liberation. Now, Mr. Henry, let me reiterate this message. And Mr. James has illustrated very well. There is a report, I think it was worked on, I think it was in 90s by Sempewa. I think if it's not Sempewa, it's someone, the name might have slipped out of my mind, where they went to the grassroots and did research, and they asked Ugandans how they want to be represented, how they want, what type of leadership do they want?
Yeah.
And they said, we prefer a federation government,
right,
like the one we have in Canada, like the one we have in the United States of America. But then it has never been implemented. So, Mr. Henry, the reason why we are here and still toothless, it's precisely, it's because we have not, we want to solve, we lack capacity at the moment. We lack capacity, but we want to solve things that are beyond our capacity. Now, Ugandans, Mr. Henry, they don't even have space to discuss
these issues.
They don't have that space. You
Yeah,
just said public order management. They passed, was it 5 years ago? They passed public order management, which states that when they can arrest anyone who they suspect, as long as they found you more than two or more people. Now, the system is putting policies, is imposing its laws that curtail, censor people. Now, Henry, you are here telling me that what you're here asking me about the vision that I'm planning to do before.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like I said earlier, it was an hypothetical question, right? An hypothetical
Yes,
question.
I understand it, but I think I understand, Henry. I understand. I understand that kind of dimension. But the thing is, we need to focus on these key issues. How do we move from where we are to the next step?
Right.
This is where we should put our focus. How do we enslave? How do we get off this chains? We are slaves. Ugandans are slaves.
Yeah.
How do they free themselves from the chains? Now,
Yeah, I think you're talking. You're bringing up a very fundamental issue. The issue regarding the curtailment of speech or discussion of issues publicly in the public sphere of Uganda, and I think that is something that we need to engage with more intimately, because even the fourth estate in Uganda is not allowed to talk about issues that potentially fault the government. I just saw the three journalists from Baba TV, Mr. Muyanga Lutaya, Madame Mpoza, and
Kungu.
And Kungu. They've just been reinstated because they made a satirical comments regarding what the parliament did to Minister Namugas. And I think these things should be left to happen. If government needs legitimacy, if government needs trust among its people, if government needs to gain some kind of confidence from the public, to ensure that there's some sort of corroboration if things have to work out. The challenge is that when you see opposition members of parliament voting to kick out Namuganza together with the NRM government, and the fourth estate is penalized for doing satirical comments about them, and they keep quiet. That's what bothers me, because I'm asking myself, what is the opposition? Why would the opposition be comfortable with leaving the fourth estate to be penalized because they made satirical comments about their actions in parliament? Mr. Mugeni, what are your thoughts about that? Because we're talking about building on the vision that has been built or set apart by the technocrats of Uganda. Again, if you're going to have freedom of speech, tuleke Mwami Kitonsa ayogere, tuleke Mwami Mugeni ayogere, tuleke Ssali ayogere, nga abantu benyine ba opposition abali mu parliament babakozeeko fan, nga fourth estate yabakozeeko fan, they cannot stand up to defend the fourth estate.
I think Mwami Henry, let me just go back to what Ssali has said, and I think I even want to come in. I want to remind you why you brought me to this conversation, because I had seen you post Bigirwa as one of the the people in the conversation we shall have, and then I told you that, Henry, why do you want to converse with a hungry man? And I remember posting. I posted. I said I also came to the US and got milk here. I took a picture of milk in my fridge, and I told you that, Helen, right now I have milk full time in my fridge, which I didn't have in Uganda. And I was like, why do you want to bring a hungry man on here to ask him hard questions? Now, I'm trying to say this such that because you're talking about the opposition that basically looks at their current positions as a means of survival. They are depending on government to survive. They are not depending on opposition to be there. Now, Allan brings in some very, very important thing again, which I also mentioned to you in our conversations online. I was like, for me, if you ask Bigirwa, how many members of parliament are on NUP from Busoga? I told them speaking for NUP as Mufumbira does or Bigirwa does not put you on the table. We are more of your potatoes, Rumonde, being served. Because I told you, I made a comment that power right now is a struggle between Central or Buganda and Western Uganda. The East, which includes Busoga and Tororo or the Eastern, where I come from, we are non-existing. We are not. And so it brings me back to what Allan has said about the federal system. When we are talking about the East, Karamoja, overrepresented with 25 members of parliament. Henry, as we speak, I'm on one of the committees that solicits for food for Karamoja. And yet they're represented by 25 members of parliament, and they have gold, they have cement that 80 trucks leave Karamoja every day. When it comes to my district, Tororo or Busia Stroke, you know, fish, the Nile perch comes from Lake Victoria, and we're more of identified with it. If I told you about cement in Uganda, I would say that every house in Uganda is Tororo cement. But come to Tororo, where I come from, come to iron sheets. Almost Uganda, you talk about Tororo steel, iron ore from Tororo. But if you want to look for grass, thatch, mud, and water houses, come to my district. So to me, I was insisting that right now we need power centers that we people in the East can strongly go on the dining table. Because right now we are all riding on the success, the small success in Buganda to look like opposition. And yet, Northern Uganda, neutralized. Eastern Uganda, neutralized. Busoga, it's only Kadaga. And what is Kadaga? Zero. So for me, there's no position. Those fellas are people like who are seated on a throne. On a throne. When you tell them Kumagwa, and tell him, yes, they don't want to rise because they fear the pain.
Right.
They would rather sit on that pain. And that's how our opposition looks like. For me, not until you have power struggle. If Chagulanyi has stood for presidency, who has stood in Busoga or Eastern region? There's nobody. We need to have those power centers rejuvenated. Then we all know that we are struggling for power. And then when it comes to agreement, all of us have stakes, not only a few people. Right now, like it or not, that power is between Buganda and Western Uganda.
Right.
Mr. James, let me come in. I'm responding. Mr. James, I think there is no power in Buganda. That's the reality. If there was power in Buganda, Mathias Mpuuga, being the leader of opposition, would have had capacity to somehow negotiate for trying to influence so that the release of the two members of parliament, people that he has shared food with, a plate of food together. You know, he has sat on dining with them. You know, they have shared a cup of tea, but he does not have that power. Now, so the thing is, the reason why there's this perception, Mr. Mugeni, why people beyond borders of Buganda think that perhaps the Buganda fraternity are somehow okay, which I contest. Why? There's this notion because people come from other, like Buganda is the center of whoever has you know, kid-kidog. Like if you have some, you know, something in your pockets, you know, everyone is, you know, migrating, moving to Buganda, which now creates an impression that they're well off. And yet, when you go to the people from Buganda, when you visit their homes, I'm telling you, it's empty, it's drought. That's the reality on the ground, Mr. Mugeni.
You're right.
It is just an impression that is because of the immigration and movement of people from all parts of the they settle there. Now, when you're moving around a few areas in Kampala, you're thinking this is Uganda, but go to the community that comes from this constituency, you're going to see drought. So I'm telling you, I come from Kayunga, and and there was this story in 2016, 2017. I come from Kayunga, and New Vision Monitor they were writing, people in Kayunga, they're eating potato peels for pigs, food which is meant for pigs.
Right.
So I'm telling you, Mr. Mugeni, there's drought even in Uganda. It is just that a few of people that survive on the handouts from the system, and then the cousins of the system, because they settle in Kampala, that give an impression, that, oh, wow, at least Buganda is somehow okay. It's not. Look, why would it's not? Now, Miss Henry, please allow me to reiterate this message. I think going forward, I kindly request you, we need to focus on how we free ourselves from this chain.
We can briefly talk about it. We have a couple of minutes, about 30 minutes. Why don't you briefly talk about it?
Yes.
Before you come back on that message, interlude, just a little bit of interlude. Jagala okwebaza mwenna mwenna batugoberera mwebale kuba nti mutugoberera. Genda ku YouTube Henry Ssali, likinge, making sure that the notifications are set to come to you. Tusobole okubeera nga twegoberera twongere these discussions maaso. Tukomawo in about 1 minute. This is the state of the nation. Ibifa Mugwanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The state of the nation with Henry Ssali. All right. Mr. Mugeni, only the submission ya Mwami Kitonsa. There's an illusion that Buganda has some sort of power. Yet, in actual sense, there's zero power. So basically, all power is in Western Uganda. It is concentrated in one person, and the only beneficiaries are those people who are surrounding that guy, and of course the relatives and the family. So the notion that the contestation of power in Uganda is between Buganda and the West is merely an illusion. Your thoughts on that? Especially given the example he has given you, omusajja ava Kayunga akugambye abantu be Kayunga baali balya pills za mondo na bikuta by'amatooke. Yet we have fertile land in Buganda. Back in the day, Buganda homes in Buganda had 2 gardens, one for the Kabaka, one for the home. But even that Kabaka's garden, yalinga garden y'abantu abo bennyini abamaka ago. Ngemmere ya Kabaka, abakaba beerawo enjala bagenda mu nnimiro ya Kabaka ne bajja emene balya. Nga tewali njala mu Buganda. What's going on right now is that many people have been deprived of their land, and they cannot afford to even engage in subsistence farming. What are your thoughts, given your background and the time you have spent in Buganda when you are there, and what you see right now? Do you still think that the power is between Buganda and the West?
Mwami Ssali and Allan, I think there are a bit of statistics that talk for themselves. What I'm saying, okay, you can mention Mpuga. Who can I mention in the eastern Uganda? They're all followers. We're all followers. You know, you have a maybe let me say that perhaps poverty has woken you people up. Maybe that's a better statement. Poverty has made you people to resist. But for us, poverty has killed us. That's what I can say. And the next question that what you wanted us to hint on, I think I had also hinted it. I had hinted slightly on. I said it will take negotiated settlement, which right now, I think so far is weak. But to me, I would say Noop is trying to do it. You either listen and negotiate or push to the end. It might take an armed conflict because the guys we're dealing with are armed. So who takes the arms to speak to the army? Because how did the Arab Spring work out? You know, when people took the streets, the armed people protected the people. Maybe we need to find out if we can convince the UPDF to work with us. Next, I also mentioned education like this. These things we are doing, which you know is not allowed. This is arming people. People just don't have, knowledge is just not there. For example, I have just learned right now that Buganda is poor. And look at how I have made a twist that perhaps poverty now has made you people to resist. So we need this continuous education. So it's going to take negotiated settlement, which will come from a push from people. It will take armed struggle, which we don't know who will start it or where it will come from. But perhaps the army also will start siding with the people. And then the other thing is this education. Those are 3 points I've given you, so.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Kitonsa, your thoughts as we continue in engaging in this discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mugeni. Mr. Ssali.
Tukoze tutyo keeping a government accountable, but tukoze tutyo jijjako.
Besigye, people had a lot of hope in Besigye because he had military background. He was a personal doctor to the man himself, the leader of the NRA militia. So it was that brief made people have confidence in Besigye that he is the right candidate to take out the head of the militia, the NRA militia. However, 20 years down the road, he failed. And perhaps if one day, I think you, in the future, should organize time so that I give you my analysis on that. Now, here comes Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine, trust me, if you ask me, how did Bobi Wine get to the idea of contesting for the top leadership? I would say I don't know, because I was out of the country. But a few years from there, we have seen that he lacks that capacity as well. In fact, if you really see his strategies, is more of the repetition of Kizza Besigye, and by the way, much worse.
Much weaker.
Much weaker, yes. You would like, I'm saying the performance worse in the context of performance. If you see what is happening today, you start to wonder. We have a leader who came on camera and attested to the public, spoke to the public that there was an attempted assassination on his son at his address, which Therefore, he had to take his son out of the country and his family and his children to America. 2 months after, I think it was 2 months or 1 month and a half, not less than 3 months, the wife, flies back the children to Kampala. Now, that gesture, that action only itself, that action, what do you think? What kind of impression it gave to the sympathizers, to the West countries, to the Western countries that we are crying to, that, hey, we have a dictator. We have a dictator who's committing massacre. That the leader of opposition came on camera to say, there was an attempted assassination of my son, and we all were sympathetic to it. Then he flew his children out of the country. After 2 months or 1 month and a half, the wife flew them back to the country, which means either we are the problem as opposition, or the people that we entrust, or we're being duped. So now, this is the quagmire, the state of confusion that we find ourselves today. I'm telling you. Look, these are kind of leaders that we have installed hope. We have given up our hope, our thinking and our hope on, to them, that perhaps they are more knowledgeable in this struggle, and therefore they're the right people to lead us to Canaan. But when you look, when you
dig deeper,
dig deeper,
yeah,
you wonder what the hell is going on here. You get it? Now, Henry, we are yet to have leadership as opposition. What we have are scams, corn star, people who are duping, people who are thriving, who have seen an advantage that they can perhaps have, take something from the pockets of the tyrant himself and the desperate fraternity, especially from the diaspora, that are really desperate to see change. So what they do is to manipulate and exploit the masses on the ground. Then of course, there's that impression, that excitement. Then before you know, of course, there are some exchange of a few pennies, and then on the side of the government and the side of the diaspora team, and then when they're satisfied with whatever little that they have been able to get from those two sources, they sit down and focus on they start to invest on their personal, properties or whatever. They start to do personal investment. Now, that is the kind of leadership we have today. You get it?
So then the question becomes, how do we keep the dictator accountable when we are struggling to keep our own leaders accountable?
Yes.
Mugeni, or maybe you should come in and then Kitonsa will come back after your submission. How do we effectively keep the dictator accountable when we are struggling to keep our own leaders within the opposition accountable? Assuming that the picture that Mr. Kitonsa has painted is a true character of opposition leaders, how do we keep the dictator accountable?
Maybe the question should be, how do we regain the lost revolution? To me, that would be the question, because we kind of had a revolution that identified me, identified you, identified every person. Then our colleagues. I've said it several times that we won an election and lost the revolution.
Right.
Yes, because the revolution means that each of us is holding government accountable. And to me, the problem is not the opposition. The problem is those guys who think they're in leadership. Because if the thousands in NRM, like I gave you that simple example, if the starving people of Karamoja are able to give NRM 25 members of parliament, then the problem is not opposition. The problem is in Karamoja. So it's we must get people to understand what government does. If somebody has taken to government, it's not about opposition even now holding government accountable. First of all, it is the citizens. Opposition is just an alternative that they will disagree with the policies that they are seeing and offer this to the general masses to understand. So we still have a problem where even those who are leading don't know that they are supposed to account, or they are supposed to hold the. I mean, if the NRM majority can't see it, why do you think the paltry few can see? That's where the problem is. The paltry few cannot see what the majority covers, because right now, when I was talking about the bipartisan politics, where we say a road, this road, it's all over. It's all over the road. We need this road in Eastern Uganda. We all say it, but you have a situation where people will tell you what does for example, recently we had several road traffic accidents, which included even the death of a judge, of the children of a judge. But it pained me when people are saying, but the opposition is not even talking about road accidents. What's wrong with this? Yes, somebody said it. That the opposition has not even said anything about road traffic accidents in parliament. Said, come on, look here.
Because people have an assumption that if something is not going right, it's the duty of the people in the opposition to keep the government, which has power to implement some of these policies, to keep them accountable. They have to talk about these things to keep them accountable. Because Abantu power usually assume that these problems do not affect them directly, even when they do. Right? Now, when you talk about the death of the judge's children, the judge, of course, did not. First of all, he has no voice. He cannot mention this because he's not in parliament. But what we forget is that enchaba n'aba speaker yabajja okufiira mu road accident. Naye nga yagana okukola ki? Implementing to talk about how to keep the Minister of Works accountable. I saw the deputy speaker commissioning road construction in Ruhemo or something, some village in the west, right? Nemubuza actually could Twitter, but how does this road help people? Is there trade being done on this road? Why is this prioritized over roads that like Ginger Road, for example, which brings in a lot of traders? It's a commercial road, but you look how broken it is. Look at Masaka, look at some of the roads within central Uganda, which is the hub of the economic activities for most Ugandans. Most of the roads there are completely broken. A farmer who is bringing merchandise from the farm takes hours to get to the market in Nakasero or where they're going to make money and go feed their children. But why aren't these roads being prioritized by the Minister of Works?
Henry, that's the challenge. The challenge now lies that the challenge is not the opposition, please. The challenge is the citizen okay, for example, right now we don't have drugs in hospitals. Most hospitals have gone for 3 months without drugs. But you'd expect a doctor to be the one to be speaking. And the doctor expects the opposition to speak. So you have a doctor without a citizenry role. Right now in Uganda, we have lawyers without citizenry role.
But when the doctor speaks, they are going to be chased out of the hospital. They are going to be fired from their job. You know what happened to Dr. Mirembe when he talked about these issues last year? He was fired from his position.
And that's what we are saying, not until we all overcome that fear. Because, for example, okay, maybe I mentioned professions, but let me just say citizens without citizenship role. That's what we have in the country. The countries, I don't know where Allan is in the United States, but Canada, where you are, you know how much citizens push for a small mistake.
Right.
We don't have this in Uganda. it goes to opposition, and they know the opposition is just mold and they have nothing to it is the collective responsibility of citizens that must speak. At the end of it, now it is the citizens to know who is a better player in the policy that putting before us. It has to go that level. It's not, if you put a dream on the opposition, we are lying to ourselves. It's a long way, and if we have already tested it, that we rose up, Bob Wine came up, but he has been swallowed up.
It has been swallowed up.
The mistake was he decided to sell off what I call the revolution. To me, he sold off the revolution.
So what do we do now? Especially given that it seems people are looking forward to the next election.
Reinvent the revolution, not the next election. Reinvent the revolution, not the next election. The next election is good.
How do we reinvent the revolution?
Yes.
How do we sustain it?
I'll start with the Colonel Kizza Besigye. Yesterday, I landed on a clip where I think a few days ago, Colonel Kizza Besigye was hosted by some guy who is, I think he's the author. I think he's in charge of that account called Alternative something. I think so. He talked about a school in Kiruhura district, that is Western Uganda.
Right.
Colonel Kizza Besigye said the following. He said, there's a school that where children don't pay any single penny, but it is separate from the schools that are known for all community, for everyone.
I think I have that.
The head of state, you control government.
Yes, sir.
Your wife is the minister of education. You and your wife, who oversee the government, are paying 10,000 shillings for a year for education of a young Ugandan. But you give state house scholarships, which you control, you and your wife, you control scholarships for a few, where you pay, millions for each child. From primary, I've been talking about there is a school, an exclusive school in Kanyarieru, in Kiruhura, boarding school, free from primary to senior 6. Go and ask whether the teachers in that school are paid according to the rates of the teachers of the of UPE schools.
What are you trying to assert? That someone who comes from a certain region determines that at least let them study for free and...
Yeah, no, it's not anybody who comes from any region. I'm telling you the sectarianism and the exclusionism that has caused what we are dealing with. That some people have high quality free education, free boarding, including food and everything free, from primary to senior 6.
What's the name of that school, Doctor?
Kanyariero. It's called Kanyariero. It's in 15 miles to Mbarara.
Wow.
With thousands of kids selected from one community. Free education all the way to senior 6 boarding. And after senior 6, they get scholarships, state house scholarships to universities. While others are selling their small pieces of land to educate their children in university. And of course, after university, those who have sold their land, their children will never get jobs.
Yeah, I did listen to that clip. There are allegations that the General Secretary for NUP went to that school I tried to dig deeper to find out where I actually went to school. I haven't been able to verify that. But yeah, continue to that
Now,
to that effect.
let me be honest with you. I was happy yesterday when I landed on that clip, not because that I'm happy because of the situation, that there's an extreme exclusivity. The system, the NRA system is implementing. Look what the NRA is implementing on the grassroots. Now, this Kano Kizza Besige's story, it will address as well to what James was thinking, that the people in power are Buganda, the people who are well off, perhaps, the people who are well off are Buganda and the West. Now here, someone who comes from the West comes out to tell you that, hey, you think it is us, but even among us, there are those that are more equal than us.
Right.
You understand? So now it takes us to that we need now to identify one another, to share knowledge, so that people now can illuminate. People can we can open their brains, take out the ignorances that they have in their brains. Now, who would know that in Western Uganda there's a school that is only attains to a certain sect of people? Now, one wonders, what type of ethnicity is that? Who are those? What kind of community is that? And the government is seeing it, and it's happening, implemented by the government, empowering a certain group of people, and disenfranchising others, excluding others. What is the intent? What is the motive? What is this, the government for the people, really? What is the agenda? You stand out to open your brains and think aloud and say, what's going on? You start adults. This is what I'm telling you, Mr. Henry, that you're going to come here, talk about the visions, but then you're talking about vision to a constituent that even does not understand vision, cannot even interpret vision. Just vision. You see? Just vision. Now, because the kind of education that has been given to those, to the majority of Ugandans does not enable them to even critically think, to even interrogate, to even able to respond to basic questions.
Right.
Now, what kind of future do you see that is going to be, that do you see ahead of those children? Now, this brings me back to what I was insisting on, that our focus should be on how to take out the regime, because we have not run, we don't have a shortage of people that have visions. No. We have Mr. James is in America. He meets a very big diversity. You get it? Trust me, Mr. James can be a good president of this country. So we have not run short of people that, we have not run short of people that know what to do. We have them. The technical know-how, we have them. We have people who know the technical know-how. But the challenge is that in the current framework, in the current state, we cannot achieve, there's nothing we can do. So that's why we need to collectively, together, put our efforts in regime change, to cause a regime change. And how are we going to cause a regime change? By identifying allies. Because as Ugandans, we don't have that power to cause a regime, to overcome the NRM's establishment. Mr. Mugeni talked about Arab Spring, Arab uprising that happened in Tunisia and Egypt and blah blah, that took Mbarara and it is extra. Now, who took over power? The organized that had links to the military. Now, you're telling me Kyagulanyi, who has never met Kyagulanyi, you only see him when he's flying from Uganda. You only see him going to Paris for a vacation, for boat cruise. You only see him he goes to America to meet Uganda community, have few songs and then fly back to the country. Tell me, how will that leader be able to really not even remove the regime change, but even scare it, at least an attempt of scaring, a semblance of this word scare? How can that be practical? It cannot. Now, what we need is leadership on the side of opposition that understands the dynamics of politics in the Great Lakes, that understand that as Ugandans, Kizza Besigye and FDC, no matter, you cannot cause a regime change. You need to go beyond the borders, identify allies, because they're allies. You're dealing. Look, there's a day, Mr. Henry, when Mbide, Fred Mukasa Mbide. Also, he was hosted in one of Congo. I think he was hosted by Congo on Radio 4 or something, Radio 1 or 4, something like that. I didn't know that radio. I just came to know about it when I was here. That radio station. Now, he said that if a certain group of people is not handled well, it will become the M23 of tomorrow.
Right.
That's what Mbide said. You'll cross check. I think you should talk with Nkungu. He'll give you that clip because he shared it in one of the public WhatsApp group I subscribe to, and that's how I was able to know to get aware of his statement. Now, look, Mr. Henry, you have a group of people that kills more than 500 people in Wales, and that's not genocide. And that's not genocide. And that's not genocide. In fact, we have not seen this regime commemorating or being sympathetic, remorseful to the situation, to the people of the world. It has never happened. Now, so this, I see foxes coming on different forums, platforms, and debating about Ugandan. They talk about vision. They talk about parliament multi-party politics. I mean, all that is a waste of time. It is right. It is high time. Ugandans now have to come together, and this is good. And this must be implemented by the people in the diaspora, because you have the space, as opposed to people who are in Uganda. You have the space. You just need to create time in your busy schedule so that you can also give back to your country. Yet now, you have a system where Uganda currently today, the son of the president, who is an army serving officer, is engaged in active politics, and it's okay. But then we have seen people who have just written something that relates to politics, and they were put in jail. They were put behind the dock. You get it? So you expect such a system to give you space for you to come and share your beautiful visions, your beautiful ideas, and tomorrow you go down, you go to your constituencies and you wait for people to elect you, and they will approve they will approve that election. They're not. So Ugandans were busy wasting time debating about democracy. I think what we should be debating about right now is how to identify allies, how to build capacity, who is going to help us, and also to be consistent. Because you cannot tell me, Henry, and I will repeat it, I will echo this statement again. Henry, how will the West sympathize with the current situation the situation right now that we find ourselves today, when our leaders are speaking the contrary. Our leaders, let me tell you, you think mentally of what effect it left on the mind of the people from the West who are sympathetic to our cause, that the leader of our revolution came out to allege that there was an attempt to assassinate his children, and 2 months, the children are back in the same environment. So there's something wrong. There's inconsistencies. There's untruth, which then gives room for our sympathizers to abandon us.
Mr. Mugeni, well, your thoughts about that?
And this is my last thought, because I sign out at 1:56 and 1:51. Yes, I think the summary, Henry, you have been once in a while you have been discussing with me. I told you I don't believe in a noob leadership, not in a bad way, but when they came, I believed in them. I even still I have my certificate for contribution, signed. But after we lost the revolution, I stopped believing in them. And he has echoed what I said. We need to recreate the revolution. And I said, if we cannot create it in the diaspora, forget at home, because the people at home have basically been denatured. They just don't have it. You have some say here, because it's like you have preserved yourself here for what? Those are questions we must answer. So if we cannot push from here, the people at home, the man took advantage of ignorance. He uses it as a resource. He's taken advantage of poverty. He uses it as a resource. Recently, he just saw the diseases, COVID-19, Ebola. He just uses those things. Now, it is going to take us to wake up, either ourselves here, because why are we here? Those are questions we should be asking ourselves. So how do we go back home? There must be a strong push from here that we want to go back home. And there must be a strong push from here that we give people at home hope.
But how do we do that when other people that are seemingly intelligent here are still believing in a so-called revolution, which you and I agree that we lost it? Because now I'm thinking about Dr. Kauma, I'm thinking about people like, because there's some people who have just given up, and then there are some people who are still recreating that illusion that there's a revolution.
And I think you have seen me argue with Dr. Kauma, telling him, Dr. Kauma, I don't agree with you. You have taken the wrong direction. I keep telling him that. So, and what I don't want us to lose hope, what I don't want us to lose it is that light lights up darkness. We might be few. This thinking is correct. It might not be 100%, but for us to go back home, it's going to take us having these conversations and bring in more people to have this conversation, and then perhaps attracting the whole world to listen to the conversations. Henry, let me tell you point blank, I worked with the U.S. Embassy back home before I came here. Okay, I last worked with them in 2010, and the ambassador, the U.S. Embassy, of course, I'm now telling you about the foreign policy of the U.S. with us, was in the field of democracy, HIV/AIDS, and peace in northern Uganda. And when you ask them, for example, peace in northern Uganda, you can say 75%, although to me, I say those guys were subdued. When it comes to HIV/AIDS, they're still funding it heavily, but most of the funds there are diverted. But on democracy, the ambassador assured him that you people keep on endorsing this. You keep endorsing it.
Yeah.
If as long as you endorse it, for them, they think, how do you improve on your democracy? How do you improve on your democracy? But you have some bit of it because you have, they call it regional elections, even if they're unfair. So the issue is, how do you push for fair elections? That's what they said. That's what the ambassador told him. So it is us, the people. Now, those people are now those who are going to redefine the revolution. It's never late. Maybe even we can again bring back the so-called Bobby Wines back to the revolution.
Yeah, but how do you bring
submission?
It's complicated.
The conversations. These conversations.
When they don't even want to have this conversation, like
will alignment.
Mr.
James is proposing for a will alignment.
I know, realignment. But the thing is, people do not want to engage in this conversation. People think that there is still a revolution, a pending revolution. Even given all the things that we see that Uganda actually chaliwo.
Henry might miss a point. Allan said it here that even James can be a leader.
Exactly. Okay.
Maybe you, maybe Allan. So the whole thing is that if we talk about a revolution, is it possible to light another candle if the other one blew up? That's a very important thing.
It is possible.
Yes.
It is possible, but it's going to be a divided opposition, which I don't like.
Henry, don't care about who is not sitting with you right now, who's not appreciating this idea right now. No, care about how who you need to start with.
I don't know how many people are listening to Henry. I don't know why he thinks he has brought us together.
I haven't. That's why I'm still having this conversation, because I'm struggling. I want to have these genuine conversations together. But
Henry,
these people.
Henry, Henry.
Yeah.
I think we mentally, like psychologically, Ugandans, a high number of Ugandans is ignorant, even when they went to school. Why? It is logic. It is basic logic. Like, look.
Mr. Mugeni, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. If you are leaving, it's been a pleasure having you here today. We should continue having these conversations.
Knowing Allan had never known Allan before, and I'm happy you hosted us. Thank you. Let's keep the fire burning. These things are possible. I'm ready to come in for the next debate and bring more people. We can talk to ourselves. We need to have this conversation. The diaspora is our only hope.
Yeah.
You are preserved here for a purpose. Just don't be, because and Helen, maybe Allan, what you should know, maybe when Henry says seemingly intelligent people, he doesn't know that Museveni brings semi-intelligent people here more than you do.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
It's complicated. This is a complicated pathway. But I think there's hope. We do have an opportunity to rebuild the revolution and ensure that it's a true revolution. There's a lot that can happen. I did believe a lot in my brother, Mr. Kyagulanyi, to the extent that I even lobbied for him a fellowship at the University of Toronto at Mercy College, which he turned down. I don't know why he did, but so for me, that was the beginning of my stepping away from this, because I was like, Bakuwawata Fellowship, University of Toronto, in collaboration with Mercy College and Monk School of Global Affairs, both influencers, not just in North America, but globally. Interacting communities. For me, that was the point of departure, really. Even when I had resigned earlier from the creation of NOP during the transition of people power, I still believed in him. I still believed in the revolution happening. When the offering, background, lobbying, fellowship, 45,000 for 8 months for him to come here and teach about music and politics, but also interact with influencers at Monk School of Global Affairs and Mercy College. Najitaninga down. For me, that was my point of departure, because I was like, okay, this guy is not serious about governing Uganda. Kwanga is not even willing to learn how to do things differently. So it's complicated, but I hope more people can engage in this conversation, and we can show people that, you know what, there are other people who can engage in these conversations seriously, who are ready for real revolution, a real change that will liberate not just our people, but also reorganize our institutions that are broken right now. For the people following us, go to Henry Ssali YouTube page, like, notification, encourage other people to join, share the page as many times as you can. If we want these conversations to continue, we have to share as many times as we can. Of course, we are not looking for popularity, but we are looking for people who are engaged in having serious conversations. Mr. Kitonsa, tugaleo sawa zizine wafe zili sawa mwende wamesimanyi sagala ombulire. Let us close this conversation.
Madensawa nkuddemu ekyo jara commenting ku disappointment yo. Now I think tukole ensobi, we make a very big mistake, a very huge mistake. Okuba nti we think highly about people betutanaba kukolako nabo bintu. That Henry wali gyowali gwe n'olowooza nti Kyagulanyi ategeera kyowali omulaga, kati nti bw'atakituukiriza somehow oba disappointed because oyagala nkyukakyuka. Now ensobi tolina kunyiiga, eba nsobi gwe okunyiiga, okwenyigira. Lwaki? Nti abantu tubalaba mu masuuti naye nga wano tewali. Ojja kulaba omuntu mu mmotoka nga ye nze nakulya Makindi, manye ebyobufere bw'ekatwe. Omufere w'ekatwe ojja musanga nga akubye essuuti ye, omulabanga gye Mark 2, Mark X nga zakayingira ng'olaba abaana be Makindi ki okitegeera. So naye nga nti ye byamanyi nti bw'agatta uno n'amumanipulatinga n'afuna akasente ke yaba satisfied. Kati gwe ojja kati bw'okwata omuntu oyo ogambe nti omuteeke mu administration oba ku cause ng'eno ey'okunona eggwanga, ojja kuba okoze ensobi. Lwaki? Kubanga targets ze limited. It's about self. It's about himself, not the entire country. So kati gwe wesanga ng'oli bruised, omutima gwo, onyiize. No.
Sanyiga nena disappointed. Omanyi obeera ologamba kale an opportunity tugimisinze. Because the thing is, when you miss such an opportunity, it's not just that opportunity, but also you lose trust among the allies that you're working with. We're having some conversations, because this takes, not everyone can be given that opportunity. Those are competitive opportunities, right? When you're able to navigate the system, no matter if I speak to this piece, neno piece, they are likely going to listen to me because they have worked with me, they understand me, they trust me. Never gamba, okay, this is an opportunity, let us work on this. Guy mugamba J. For the entire year. Agenda kusomesa abaana abasomera ku Monk School of International Global Affairs and Public Policy. Ate nga asomesa ebintu byayagala byamanyi, music and politics, nga maze omukolera curriculum yonna nga bwegenda okubeera. Ekitegeera ng'agenda wagenda okusula wali free of charge, is going to interact with influencers in Canada, not just in Toronto, but people who come to
North America.
Yeah, North America. Together, the likes of Farid Zakaria, the likes of those guys who are influencers, because they interact with all these people here. Nagamba, I'm not going to come, right? You're disappointed because you have a lot of you have had a lot of expectations. Together, and you see that okay, kati abantu betu badde twesiga. See, this is not what they are thinking about. They are thinking about something completely different. And this is the first time I'm talking this about this publicly, because I feel like there's probably other people who have offered similar opportunities, but are just keeping quiet because they're like, you know what, let me just keep quiet. It's not gonna serve any interest. But I think it's very important to have these conversations. Not everyone gets these opportunities. So when you turn down an opportunity like that, you're not just turning it down for yourself, but you're also killing someone's relationships in terms of trust. Kitegeera kuba kati abantu abali bampalamu amagezi batuwa ne bagamba nono gaya tugamba ABCD nga tekyahappeninga. Kitegeera kati how do I lobby for someone else for such an opportunity and they get it? Together. So these are all things that we need to interrogate, examine and be like, are we on the right track? Are we ready? Are we actually ready to govern? Even when we get into power, are we ready? Together, because if we cannot manage these small things, how are we going to be able to manage the bigger things, the more complicated things? Together. Mwana omwami Museveni we yagamba nti agenda kusima mafuta agabana nabagamba agenda gasima omanyi lwaki agenda gasima kubanga he has more connections internationally than we do. Ours are for posturing. We posture a lot. No posturing atajja gasima atajja kola kino nali nyenyo inagala natula ne Biden namugamba nawe manyi Biden interests zo ziri ABC ezange ziri CDEF ngenda kuwa ABC kasitobera ngo mpa DEF. Kitegera Biden natula nagamba zenze kasitobera ngo mpa interests za America ziroti ziko interests zo gomanyi byokola bagenda kuvuga abantu bo. If they can't see that, take your interests nange interests zange zimpi. Kitegera until we learn how people engage in these conversations internationally, diplomatically, we are not going to be able to change government even when we never to international organizations or other players, international players to help us with doing this.
Those are ndowooza nti bannayuganda ffe nnyini ffe tulina okunenyezebwa. Twahypinga omuntu atali wase ku hypinga ne tumuteeka mu position ye mwennyini gy'atalina okubaamu kubanga ye nnyini akiraga. Kubanga omuntu ne bw'obanga tewali ready obuvunaanyizibwa obwo nga tewali ready kubamu obuvunaanyizibwa, naye bw'oba n'abantu abakwasizaako nga oba willing okuyiga okumanya engeri gye basobola okuddukanyamu obuvunaanyizibwa obwo. Naye bw'oba toli willing kuyiga, kitegeeza nti omuntu oyo aba tasaanira buvunaanyizibwa obwo. Therefore, nti mmwe ababa mukaka okuba mu obwo obuvunaanyizibwa mubba n'ekikyamu.
Right.
So, ffe tulina ekikyamu okukaka omuntu obuvunaanyizibwa ye bw'alaba bw'atasaana. Because bw'obanga okimanyi nti ddala okkiriza okubanga okwasaganya obuvunaanyizibwa obwo, kitegeeza nti n'ebirowoozo ebiva mu abantu abalina experience mu obwo obuvunaanyizibwa obawuliriza. Naye bw'ogamba nti tobawuliriza, kitegeeza nti gwe ebigendererwa byo bya njawulo ne bali abalala. Therefore, it was a very big mistake okuhypinga omuntu ali nga ye ali disconnected n'ekyo abantu kye baagala. Neera buli weesiba ku muntu consequences ziddawo.
Right.
Abe muwala nga yaggaana kati Henry keera ku makya okwana omwana omuwala okwanika girlfriend kagambe isikwagala Henry olete ssente okahypingi okagulire engatto okagulire emmotoka okateeke mu apartment e Toronto. Okitegedde? Kashoppinga ngoye mu maduuka ag'ebbeeyi. Now, enkya bw'okasanga ne Allan, ogenda kunenyaani?
Nze.
Gwe!
Yeah.
Kubanga kagamba sikuwagala. Kyokka nga gwe insistinga ne kagamba nze sikuwagala. Kitegeeza nti in exchange of her time, bino ebintu by'omuwa naye nakufunirawo obudde olw'ebintu bino, naye tekitegeeza nti akwagala kubanga yakugamba takwagala.
Kituufu.
Tupenge nnyo attention ku bikolwa. People bapaying attention ku bigambo than ebikolwa. Because ebikolwa kye kidefininga consistency y'omuntu. Si bigambo. It is the action, it is the deeds that bring out the meaning of consistency. Now, if, especially the black mind, to focusing nnyo ku bigambo than ebikolwa. Kyola tukyamuka nnyo. So, therefore, Henry, wali oteeka omuntu ohypinga omuntu atali worth kumuhypinga, ye naakulaga nze siri awo ntadde nti awo, I'm not worthy to be there.
Right.
Kati gwe kyokka omupuusinga agamba nze siri worthy. In fact, let me tell you, Henry, one day I went to the slot machines. I inserted $50. Guy nangamba. This guy, one of the guys, came to me and said, "No, don't play. Chikugani, ingamba nidda." And then the night band $800. I'm telling you. Let me tell you. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm being honest with you. Nateka you $50. And it, like, I was bored. I mean, I was just alone, bored. And, I was just having a glass of pineapple juice and the music is playing in the background. People are having fun. So I said, let me keep myself busy. We have a lot of stress. I have issues with my son, blah, blah. So and I inserted $50. And again, okomaikiriza ng'olunana walulidde.
Right.
Naye guy kyeyangambye agakatula guy yangamba, "What's your name?" Nangamba, "Don't play. This is bad luck. It is saying just don't play." Zidingamba, let
me try my luck again. My bad luck.
Basooka ne balya ebina. Nempangulayo $1,050. Nemba excited nga ndowooza ngenda kujjayo. Ne bantwala ku 7 nempangulayo $3. Naye nina okukomyawo ssente zange olunaana lungi. Bagenda ddumpa na endinga ng'olunaana baludde.
Right. Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
So, kyekino kyekimu nti tuba nnoffe ne mwesiba ku bantu abatali worthy, abantu abatalina knowledge eyo obuvunaanyizibwa bw'oyagala okubawa. Kati gwe n'oba nga gwe nze mba nzikiriza nti gwe oba omusobya. So way forward is bannayuganda bonna gye bali, naddala abantu bali mu diaspora, obuvunaanyizibwa bw'okuleeta enkyukakyuka buli mu mikono gyammwe. Mulekeraawo okulowooza bali abali grassroot nti be bagenda okuleeta regime, tebalina political space, tebagina. Nze natuuka time yasobola kuorganizinga protest yonna mu Kampala nga ndiko warrant of arrest. So I was neutralized because okulabikako nga bakwata eno nga bagulayo endala. Natuuka time nga nina nga nina warrant of arrest. Kooti y'e Nakawa neetaaga, kooti y'e Iganga neetaaga, kooti y'e Makindye neetaaga, kooti ya Buganda Road neetaaga. At the same time, 9:30. Kitegeeza bw'ojampinga eno ng'omulala agamba mukwate. Nga ndi mu rotation mwedi. So, eyo tewali muntu ne mukwano gwe yennyini yakyogera nti omuntu alwanisa Museveni either ng'oli mu ttaka, ng'oli mu exile oba ng'oli mu kkomera. Yennyini eyogera sinze. yenyini yayogera simanyi oba
naye ye gyali ali bulungi
andi no anti ekigambye kati gwe judging statement n'ebikolwa kitegeeza nti omuntu bamuwanikira statement n'atasoma content oyo kumutegeera n'agenda n'amupresentinga kati content n'ajjayo ekifaananyi ye kyali munda so kati gwe bw'oinsistinga n'ogamba nti okyalina faith mu muntu oyo gw'oba ekyamu si ye y'oli omuwala eyagamba sikuwagala gwe n'oinsistinga nti omwagala trust me it is time tugenda tunoonya abakazi abatwagala naye nga Henry ngenda kusaba because this is a very very serious topic njagala to having a discussion ku geopolitics topic on geopolitics East African region because this is very important but na Uganda tebamanyi bo balowooza nti mugenda mu Simbelayini nti muwangula akalulu nedda banna Uganda balowooza nti ogenda kwambala t-shirt okwate n'ekipande kya people wa FDC nti wangula akalulu nedda let me tell you ekimu kyagambye nti one of the things ebyalemesa Besigye obuyinza in fact nti newe yali badde n'alliance osanga oli awo naye obuyinza bwaliganye lwaki nti buli lwoba mu cause be cautious patanawo interest za patanawo ziriddawa
right
because buli kyozimba kigenda kuba waliwo leakage what is the interest of your partner mu cause gyolimu bw'aba patanawo ta supporting a cause obanga ayina connection akakwate because it's two way forward it's two way sided into either akakwate kwa patanawo bw'aba ayina omusayi n'omulabewo kiza okuyamba okupuulinga bali banne kisizira ku interest zaabwe ne bw'abanga banne balaba nti bafunira ku side eri it's a waste of time in fact ebintu ebyasuula Besigye popularity ya Besigye it's not nti abantu bamukoowa na the mistakes zenyizi yagenda akola olw'ensonga nti the house itself and the friends around he when you see him olaba nti ayagala enkyukakyuka by the way bw'omulaba ne consistency zataddewo okitegedde naye lwaki cause ye yali drilled into the house itself and the circles neera bw'oba oyagala nga nkuwadde paper ng'oyagala kulaba nti failures za Kizza Besigye popularity ya Kizza Besigye mu ggwanga then zezimu neza Bobi Wine in fact Bobi Wine nze na predicting nti tagenda getting beyond 2002 nga akyali strong nga ayagalibwa
2022
yeah neera nakyogera mu 2019 yeah there are things that I was sharing with people in fact muganga mukwano go yanyigira kuno olumu ng'olwokuba nti view yange eri contrary kujja ayina okitegedde naye nga tuli baluganda naye olw'ensonga nti ye perhaps at that time yasobola kubanga akiraba but right now akiraba I know where he is akiraba nti kyenayogera kituufu so olaba Ssali don't be silent Mr. Mugeni gyali eri people are there naye beetaaga kuba identifying so that we connect one another what is left is to connect one another so that tuba ne commitment nate nekyala abantu baffe bali ignorant njagala olabe Henry olaba abavubuka e Uganda bali into the kind of conversation people mostly they have on TikTok nti anya strippinze anya azinye bend over asinze but look at come to Canada and America and you see what children bebasomesa abaana
right
olabe biki bebasomesa abaana olabe n'ebyaffe abaffe maama abeera wali ng'ali ku video ya TikTok omukazi astripinga nga n'omwana we atudde wali balaba byombi. Wano abazadde tebabikkiriza ne gavumenti yennyini tebikkiriza. Ekitegeera omwana bamuwa ekintu kyasaanira omwana nti omwana olina omulabira ekyokulya, olina omutwala ku ssomero, alina okuba healthy bulungi, akola exercise, omutwala mu paaka n'azannya. Si kubanga omwana omu-exposinga mu bintu bya kuwemula, mu bintu by'aba strippers.
Yeah.
Now, generation yaffe, generation netuddirira emabega ey'abavubuka, I'm telling you, yeetaaga okusomesa like constantly. Kubanga bo tebamanyi na buyinza butwalibwa. Kyokka ate olowooza nti ojja kujja okwata akazindaalo nti obakolemu nti oyogere bwogezi beekolemu omulimu ng'ate bennyini tebamanyi. Therefore, Mr. Mugeni nga bw'agamba tulina okukozesa platforms zino because ffe tulina space. Tulina okukozesa platform okusomesa abantu n'okubategeeza omulabe yaani, ani mukwano gw'omulabe, amaanyi g'omulabe gavaawa, n'engeri gye tukendezaamu amaanyi gaabwe. Okay, engeri gye tukendezaamu amaanyi gaabwe tutya? Twetaaga mikwano ki? N'era egyo emikwano giriwa? Ne tukoze tutyo gituukirira.
Right, let us wrap up. This has been a very interesting conversation. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and engaging in this serious conversation. I hope everyone who is listening to us is able to take the opportunity to examine our conversation, interrogate, criticize, advise, counsel. Anyone who is heavily in favor of the current regime, if you want to have a discussion with us, shoot me a message. My phone number is right there. We shall invite you to engage, to discuss, and how do we make Uganda the pearl of Africa again. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, Mr. Kitonsa, and we shall continue having this conversation. Again, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Henry Ssali, and this is the State of the Nation. This is the State of the Nation. Rifa Mwanga. We are deliberate, we are reasonable, we are uncensored. The State of the Nation with Henry Ssali.